Hello, hello. I am here today with a very special guest. First of all, introductions. I'm Samantha. I am the owner and general manager here at Dancewear Center. And I'm going to allow my special guests to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name's Ian Howe. Pronouns he, him. Owner, dance studio owner, teacher, choreographer, all the things.
All the things, all the things. Well, let's get right into it because we're going to talk about all the things. Tell us a little bit about your dancing journey.
Wow. I started at the age of 5, Sesame Street. Savion Glover was on there as a dancer, and I looked at the screen, looked at my mom, told her I could do that. She's like, really? I was like, yup. So she put me into classes. So that started me dancing and, started out with tap, and then that just led into jazz and ballet and lyrical hip hop, all the things. I was a competitive dancer. I did that for 10, 11 years. And then I was very fortunate to, right out of high school, right after graduation, I started working on cruise ships as a dancer with Holland America for almost 7.5 years. So literally got to travel the world and get paid to dance and do it while traveling. Um, did that, and then I came back to land and tried to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up. So I just started going back to teaching and choreographing, and that's pretty much what I do now. I teach, I choreograph, I own a couple studios. I have a small dance photography business, and then depending on my boredom, I'll start up another project, I'm sure.
Very
Oh,
cool. Yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
No, I just am having some trouble with my mute button. So I know that you love to start new projects. I think that's very exciting. With you've got several things going on, but what maybe your biggest thing that you've got going on right now, what sparked the decision to start that project?
Um, oh, that's a good question. I would say probably that's funny. Probably the biggest project right now is that for the studio that I have, we're looking to expand into other avenues, not just your normal dance classes. We actually have a dance circus program that we just started, so it's silks and lyra and all of that. So we're hoping to expand upon that in the next 6 months to a year. And then we're also looking in very beginning stages, very much still just kind of in the idea phase, but we want to start a sensory gym also for dancers and younger kids who just get overwhelmed in the normal dance class, not even dance class, but just class setting. So to give them a place that they can still experience all of that, but in different, more inclusive ways. Um, Dude, what sparked that? I mean, besides just boredom and needing to fill time, honestly, just wanting to offer more, wanting to offer not necessarily something different, because I think every dance studio, has the thing that they offer to their clientele, but just wanting to offer more, wanting to make sure that anybody and everybody can experience the arts, dance by extension, obviously. But everybody can experience it in their own way, or at least get a taste of it and see if it's something that they want to pursue and do and have a part of their lives.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, sensory gym. That's very cool.
Yeah,
Ooh.
hopefully it's finding the right space and everything. But yeah, that was my business partner, Sydney. There are things like that where she lives, and she's just like, yeah, we should start one for ourselves. I'm like,
Very cool.
oh, okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
go.
I love it. Very cool. So kind of just like more generally, what is your favorite thing about dance?
Um, being able to express yourself in a non-auditory way, and there is not necessarily any right or wrong way to do it. Um, it is a very subjective thing, which I mean can go both ways, but I think that that is the beauty of it is that it is so subjective and that it can be interpreted in the same piece, or the same feeling can be interpreted in so many different ways. And I think that there are very few things um, in the world that can be interpreted, or that has that same type of aspect to it.
Yes, so true, so true. And then kind of on the flip side, this is kind of a two-part question. What was, maybe still is, your biggest challenge within the sphere of dance? And then what kind of advice might you give to another dancer that might be struggling with the same thing?
Finding your worth, because it is such a, again, it's such a subjective, um, it's such a subjective industry, and it sucks sometimes. Well, not sometimes, it sucks a lot of the times, really, to be quite honest. I mean, it is a cutthroat industry, and there is this stigma that you have to fit a certain way, you have to look a certain way, you have to dance a certain way, and really that isn't true, but that is the overarching theme of it, unfortunately. And being okay with not finding your place the way that you perceive it to be. If you are able to find it, then you are one of the very lucky few that actually was able to go on that journey and have it happen the way you thought it was going to have happen. Um, my advice is, one, to just be okay with that. Like, that thick skin that we're supposed to gain is going to probably be more for your mental health and more for your adventure, your dance journey, to get through it, and then figure out ways to be okay with that, and then make yourself diverse. Like, don't just stick to dance. I mean, yes, dance is why we get into it. It might be, what we want to do, but it really is true. Our bodies do not last. And, it is something that I think when we're young and we're able to bounce back from injuries and everything, we're kind of like, oh, whatever. And then a certain age hits and it's just like, oh, can't come back from that as quick. But get yourself into the backstage aspect of it, get yourself into the lighting aspect of it, sound design, set design, costuming. Um, my God, finding venues and finding people to hire to bring in to run the venues, set design. There's so many different aspects of the sphere that we're a part of that we don't necessarily see because we're the ones that want to be on stage. But by extension, some of those people that are behind the scenes are even more important in the effect of, if they aren't there, we don't have a show to dance in. So I think it's a paradigm shift to realize that there might be a certain part where you're like, yeah, I'm going to perform for 10, 15, 20 years. And if you do, great, that's amazing. But realizing that there are just as important roles behind the scenes that actually might even have a bigger effect for a greater number of people. Yeah, and finding your worth in that.
Resonates so much with me. Yeah, it's so good. And then this is a little bit more taking this kind of similar question on a more global scale. What is something you want to see change in the dance world, the dance industry, and what are some specific steps that you think that we can take to move towards that?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh God, if I'm being honest, accountability within the industry. There are so many great things about dance and dance studios, dance competitions, dance companies, individual choreographers, coalitions. There are so many great things, but they're, depending on who's associated with it, where you're at, what the level of funding is, what the level of acceptance is, there's either great accountability or there's very little accountability. Um, and when I say accountability, I mean in all aspects, in how dancers are being treated and what's being put up on stage, the audition process, the rehearsal process, um, eh, inclusivity versus exclusivity, and finding the boundaries within that. And there's just no yeah, it's kind of like the Wild West, I feel like. in a lot of aspects. Um, with that being said, I really don't know what the steps are because dance is such a subjective thing. It is such a universal thing. Um, I mean, you deal with like the hardcore ballerinas from Eastern Europe, and they're very much bum, 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 like that's how it has to be. But then you could take the same situation, put it somewhere Midwest United States, and they're just like, oh yeah, we still produce a great product, but the way that we get there and how we do it and our processes are going to be completely opposite of, you know, these people over here. Choreographer dancer in Asia is going to have a very different aspect and way of looking at things than somebody that's from South America. Um, so I really don't know the answer or the steps to that accountability, but I do know, and I feel this deep down, especially as someone who owns a studio and sees, thousands of kids come through my door every year. Um, there has to be some better accountability. I just don't know what that is, or I don't know the steps to get there. I know what I'd like to see. I know that our people feel the same way, but there isn't a clear path. And I really don't know what that is yet.
Yeah, well, I think, awareness of it is definitely like the first step, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think people are aware of it. And I think people are aware of it on certain levels, but I don't know. And I don't know what the situation would be to create this catalyst, but I don't think there's been a catalyst yet to where people are saying things consistently to keep it away, to keep the awareness level there. Because like I'll see stuff pop up on Facebook and events that happen where people get really up in arms about it and X, Y, and Z happens, and then somebody will say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or somebody will be like, "Oh, here's $10 million we're throwing at this project," and then it just goes away. So again, I don't know where the consistency comes in, I guess is what it comes down to, is the consistency of the awareness of the accountability that needs to happen.
I know that's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's definitely, it's something to think about and, continue to, I think a big part of it, like, is remaining steadfast in that awareness, and also like I think it's like looking internally and holding ourselves accountable too. That's super important, and maybe that's like the biggest thing we can do when we have all of these frameworks that are already in place, these systems that are just rolling and rolling and rolling. I think the biggest change we can make is in ourselves, and that hopefully, you got to hope that it ripples out, right?
For sure, 110%. And I mean, this is a conversation I could have for hours because it's just there's so many different facets of it. But yeah, it's the holding yourself accountable, but then on the same flip side of that, it's like, do you as the person, like, do I, Ian, or do you as Samantha, when you're in that situation, are you realizing that you need to hold yourself accountable, or is it one of those things where it's just a natural process that something maybe you just grew up with or have always done, but that's another part of it, is sometimes you need to have somebody that calls you out on it, or is like, hey, let's reframe this and flip this backwards so you can look at it yourself. So it's just it's again, it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to
yeah.
yeah.
It's good though. I love it. Lots of good stuff to think about there for sure. Well, fabulous. My last question is not nearly as hefty, but it's definitely a big one. It's, what's coming up for you in the near future? Do you have any like classes or workshops or anything that you want to highlight so that our followers know what's going on?
I mean, honestly, I know we're all in the height of it, so right now it's just getting through picture recital rehearsal season and getting on to summer. Um, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at as a studio owner, like just trying to get through all of that. But I mean, my summer is filling up as far as classes. So like I will be going to 10, 12, 14 different studios this summer. Not all in Washington State, around the US, but I still have spots available. So I mean, if there are people that watch this and they're like, oh, you sound kind of cool, let's, talk to him a little bit more. Fine. I mean, it'll get posted somewhere where you can get in contact with me or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of just waiting for summer, waiting for nice weather, and then just get out and traveling. So, I love to meet new people, and that's biggest goal of mine when it comes to teaching and everything is I just like to meet new people and make connections. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely include links to get a hold of you in the blog post and in the description here. But thank you so much for spending time with me today and giving us a little window into who Ian is.
yeah, no, of course. I love it. It's great. It's great connecting with everybody. And I'm hoping that like through the course of this ambassadorship that I just make more friends because that's what the community is about in the end.
Totally. It's my favorite part. It's my favorite part about our local community too. I feel like we're all like a lot closer together than we realize, a lot more intertwined. So it's really fun to just keep building that.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. If you liked what you watched here today, go ahead and like and then hit the subscribe buttons that you know when we have more videos out. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.